Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of our new show, Everything to Gain. I'm Dan Yu, managing partner of FastBook Advisors. After a long career in financial services and fintech, I became a recruiter, career coach, and now host of this show. You can find me at DanOU on Linktree, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok.
And I'm Marc Angelos, founder of Anvictus Communications. I help small businesses develop their positioning and messaging. We teach business, content, and marketing strategy here.
And so we're here to discuss the latest trends in growth industries, careers, work-life balance, and we're happy to take your questions on things like career pivots, personal branding, leveraging content to drive your networking or your sales. So this brings us to a topic that Marc and we hold really close to our hearts, which is networking. And I can honestly say that Marc is one of the best networkers that I've ever met. We've known each other for, 30 years.
First of all, I'm not that old. Second of all, do I owe you money?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But I think that with everything going on in the world, with AI and the automation, I think that there's so much change going on.
So I had this conversation last week. In an AI world, does networking go away? That's a serious concern for a lot of people. Seriously.
Wow. Why would AI make networking go away?
Well, because if I can automate everything, and mind you, a lot of people they want to automate everything. They don't want to be doing the personal sales interactive thing. So the question was, is there any reason to learn this stuff if it's all going to be push button automated anyway? And my argument was, go ahead.
Wow. No, that's crazy. I mean, it just kind of takes the human element out of things.
That was my argument, is that at the end of the day, if you're talking like toothpaste, fine, you can automate that. But if you're talking, you want a real business, like especially if it's an ongoing big ticket thing, like SaaS, or like, your financial outcome is to depend on this, you're going to need a relationship. And this is the value of networking.
Well, we grew up in a world where networking was the primary business skill to have, right? Like anybody could sell anything. You can have all the knowledge you want. And now with AI and automation, it just seems that's even more important, right? Because if everybody's going to go one way towards AI and automation, then the contra of that has got to be.
I don't think people realize that yet, Dano. I don't think folks understand that.
So how do people envision themselves surviving going forward?
If I can get the technical chops down, I can automate the funnels. All that stuff is what I see going on. People don't understand the fact that in an AI world, you need to actually develop an active networking plan. They're not thinking like that. These big companies, by the way, they're still trying to automate everything, workflow automations, rather than how do we build relationship with these tools.
Sure. I mean, it just seems that now with hybrid work, right, or remote for a bit, but hybrid work now, I think it's the greatest opportunity to network because everyone's at home and they're on Zoom meetings anyway. They're on conference calls anyway.
Right. And unfortunately, the specter in the background of this is these layoffs and this corporate downsizing is still going on. So nobody knows where they're going to be in a year. I think it makes folks more open to networking than they would have otherwise been.
So with networking, I mean, it seems that you and I kind of live this just normally, but the networking mindset, right? I think a lot of people consider networking as kind of like this 4-letter word, right? It's all transactional. Somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn and all they want is to pick my brain, right? Or they want my time. And it seems that the dynamic is becoming more automated just within networking itself.
Yeah. I would argue that networking gets confused oftentimes with pitching, right? Pitching is not networking. Right. Asking for something is not networking. Making outreach when you are expecting something in return is not networking.
Wasn't it Harvey McKay?
Swim with the sharks without being eaten?
Yeah. He said, my golden rule of networking is simple. Don't keep score.
Love that. Right?
I mean, it's like full circle,
I don't want
So
to sound like the old graybeards here, but that is the old way of doing it, Dano. Like that's not the way people are teaching that today.
so how do we combat this, or how do people combat this? Right, that
I think you touched on something really important. I want to just press on transactional versus authentic, like the concept of what is the intent behind the outreach. First of all, that's the authenticity piece, and how do you actually do it? Meaning, why are they calling me or hitting me up or DMing me, and what do they want? Like that's the first thing on everybody's mind. Being able to set them at ease right away is the most important element there.
shout out to the networking guru Keith Ferrazzi, author of Never Eat Alone.
Your
Right,
boy.
the currency of real networking is not greed, but generosity. Right.
I've been having Keith Ferrazzi quoted to me by you for over 30 years. He's great.
Well, considering his book's only 20 years old, but anyway,
In that ballpark.
Yeah, in that ballpark, right? So, one concept that I love that you've taught me is the value exchange, right? That digital two-step, as you used to call it. I'd love to hear your take on that again. It's always so good.
Sure. So the concept was basically, ironically, I feel like I learned this from you. What can I do for you? When you reach out to somebody, you have to help them in exchange. So if you're going to ping someone and try to network with them, know already, have done the research basically. What are some of the areas I might be able to assist them if you know what they're up to and what they are trying to accomplish? And if you don't, you can get a good sense for that. You know where. Where do you think you can find out about people, Dan?
Well, you have to spend time with them, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's
or in their content, either one,
or their content. And there's another Keith Ferrazzi ism. It's not what you know or even who you know. It's how much time you spend with who you know.
That's great.
Right. So being prepared, looking at their content before you reach out to them.
Yeah, and you've said to me on several occasions when people ping you and they haven't even looked at your content, they don't know the first thing about you, that fires you up.
Yeah, it fires up is maybe a little harsh. I'm just kind of like, oh, come on, dude. A little effort.
Right. I get this. We all get this. LinkedIn is rife with this right now. Hey, are you looking for a such and such? Like, that's not even remotely close to what my business does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the value exchange is. No, go ahead.
Yeah, and so the value exchange, so the digital two-step, right? It's like a dance, right? It's you give and the other takes a little bit, and then the other way around, right? So
I'd love to connect with you because I'm looking for whatever. I want to learn about the space that you're in. You came across my radar from a mutual friend, whatever it is, but this is what I'm looking for. And in return, I know that you dabble in, I know you're in the recruitment industry. I know that you work in content marketing. If there's any way I can help you, I've got contacts in this space or that space. So I'm kind of telling you what I'm looking for or why I'm contacting you, but I'm also sharing, hey, I'm open to delivering some value for you. That's the two-step.
So with all the layoffs these days, right? There's every day there's another company that's having massive layoffs, right? In every industry, from tech,
we've lived this,
financial services, right? So that means not only are people getting laid off, but then everybody else that's still in companies is overworked, potentially because there's less people to do the same amount of work, right? So almost by definition, they're underemployed. Right, because
this speaks to the whole quiet quitting thing.
The quiet quitting thing, Great Resignation. Now, there's all these people that are being laid off because companies may have overhired. Now, you and I know that companies usually overfire in these times. So how can people that are either looking for work because they've been laid off or they're in a job that's just crushing them, what can they do? Really?
First of all, you and I have both been in these situations, so this is from experience here, right? We're not pontificating. It sucks. Rule number one is make a plan, because oftentimes people start spinning their wheels, reaching out to people, starting to think of what they can do, but they don't have a plan. And simply just having that plan in place, knowing that today I'm going to work on these 3 or 4 items that's going to move me forward, brings you a sense of mental clarity and a sense of security that you're not going to get elsewhere. It may not work, but you feel like you're doing something. So there's a psychological benefit to that. So I would start off with making a list of all the people I think that are going to be relevant to me in the area I think I might want to go. And there will be multiple areas that may interest you, and that means multiple people, or you might want to do your own thing, which is what I ended up doing, and you too as well. Like that's not necessarily the course for everyone, but map it all out is my point. What are my options? Pen and paper, old school, and then attach. Go ahead.
Like Louis Pasteur, right? Chance favors the prepared mind, right?
Bingo.
So,
but people get frightened in these times. They don't
well,
make them.
They get frightened because there's a lot of uncertainty and unknowns, and as you say, you planning it out actually gives you a little bit of clarity and hopefully some structure to what you're doing. So, actually, an old boss of mine, Michel Fenzi, who you know quite well, he always used to talk about the opium of action, right? Which is just doing stuff to seem busy and feel like you're doing stuff, and that's kind of the running around, like a chicken without its head.
Yeah.
And I love your idea of just being prepared for every step.
You know what most people do, though, unfortunately, they feed you the anesthesia you want to get of this is the team going forward. You've heard this a million times. We've gotten lean and mean. We're ready to go forward. Don't be worried about what happened there. This is it. Let's go attack the numbers we need now. And you're like, I want to believe that. I want to believe I'm back to safety, that we're all a family. We're going to offer drinks on Friday and settle. You remember these era. In the back of your mind, that's not true. Like, not anymore. This is going to happen again in 3 months. So
free pizza, right?
Right. They used to make us go out for drinks on Wall Street after that. They'd make you go out for cocktails after the riffs. And they'd be like, last week was an ugly week. We all know it, but this is the team going forward. And you didn't have a choice to not be home with your family, by the way. It was like you had to go out for beers because
you had to go out. That's right.
Now you're sweating it. When you find yourself in that situation, don't buy in and believe like, okay, I know this is needling in the back of my mind that this is a bad thing, but I'm going to want to believe this, so I will believe it. Don't. That's the hoping piece.
So you mentioned mapping out kind of the people that could help you the most, and we've talked about this, right? So close contact versus an acquaintance.
Yeah, talk about loose connections. That's a good concept,
right? So the tight connections versus the loose connections. I think the easy kind of like crutch is to go to your best friends, right? Your closest contacts, versus trying to meet new people. And I've always been comfortable with going out and meeting new people, but I think it's hard for some people. So how do you get to that?
So losing Dano here, but the way to get there is going to be through helping people. That's really it. So while Dan signs back in, the reality is that people want to, they all want to be assisted in life. People in life, Dan, generally all want help, right? For some one way or another. They don't want to ask for it, but everyone's looking for a little assistance. So the way to start taking action is start thinking, if you've got a little list of people that maybe or networking that you might want to do, how can I help these people? And when you ping them, bring that. I know that you're in this area or that area. I can help you with contacts. I might have some background. I might just have thoughts. I don't know what you're doing directly, but in my opinion, this is what you can think about. You're really good with this. You're always good at saying, hey, have you thought about this? Pop, pop, pop.
Yeah. And when you're dealing with the people that know you the best, unfortunately, they only know you within the context of a tiny little box. Right. And so
good point.
The meeting new people or having having that loose connection or the loose network, right? So maybe that second degree of your network, your friends. I think that's a more powerful resource when you're trying to learn about something, when you're trying to find a new industry to go to or a new job. I think that's having more power because they don't have that preconceived notion about you.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's a hard thing to shed. People, you think that they're going to think of things for you, but they're not going to think of you any other way than that they already know you. No one tells you that.
Yeah.
You were the first person to ever raise that concept that I ever heard that. I'm like, he's right. On Wall Street, I'm going to be the electronic algo sales trader, no matter what else I ever do. But the folks in the media world know me as a marketing guy. Like it's.
You've got the two networks now, right?
I'm not flexing. I'm saying that like there's no chance that the marketing folks would ever think of me as a trader on a trading desk. That's just not how they know me. Right, but like the trader folks are always going to only think of me as that. This guy's a Series 7 like finance guy. What's he doing in content? So
how did you make that pivot? How did you manage that?
Personally speaking, there's an internal and an external part. Externally, you just do the stuff that you think you should be doing. If I'm moving into media, I got to be doing media guy stuff, making content, networking with those folks. Initially, to answer your question, I was helping the media people understand the business side of, at the time, creator economy was building around NFTs and Web3. And I understood how securities trade and how that whole world works. So I was educating folks inside my new world. But there's a psychology piece here, the internal thing of they're all going to make fun of you in your old world. And you got to be okay with that. If you're changing directions, you got to commit.
Right. But like once you commit, then I think that personal brand of going to whatever new thing you're going to actually creates this this terrific dynamic where people say, wow, that's so cool that you're doing that. Like can't people embrace that before they go to that new thing?
You got to be okay being uncomfortable. You know this as well as I do, Dan. Like you made this pivot. A lot of people are just afraid to make the jump into a new thing. They don't want to be at risk, but that is what's required to cross that bridge.
Right. But being brave enough to really suck at something new. Right. So
that's a great way to put it. Like the road to success is to suck at it. That's just the reality. That's how you get better at sports. It's how you get better at music. It's like business is the same way. So if you want to network your way into a new career, even if it's in a similar related field, you're going to have to be okay being the novice and saying, I'm not good at this and I would love your help.
So recently I took a pickleball and I can honestly say that, I still suck. But that first time, just knowing where to stand, knowing where to serve the ball into, knowing how to hold the darn paddle, right? It's all new, right? And so, being okay with, being at that very, very beginning part. That's I think the toughest part for people because they believe that they should be able to succeed at anything.
By the way, for those who don't know about you, Daniel, you're a nationally competitive fencer back in the day.
Nope,
like this is
tired.
No, but I mean, like you're not a novice athlete by any stretch. So for you to be like, okay, I'm going to put on my humble pie and go learn pickleball, that's what it takes.
Yeah,
I have a close friend of mine who's an accomplished skier, tried to learn snowboarding. If anyone ever learns to snowboard, you got to fall on your ass for 3 days straight. That's how it works. And after day 2, he was like, I'm done with this. I'm going back to skiing. At least I can get down the hill. And never learned to snowboard to this day. Like, that's the problem.
Yeah. So with networking, I think that's also a skill that people may not have built the muscles for it. Right. And so what are some ideas on how people can
it's one of my favorites. This is where people have to get out of the comfort zone. You got to talk to strangers. Standing in line at Starbucks, talking to the cashier. Like you're famous for this, dude. And by the way, you'll be surprised at what you get in benefits for things you don't look for. Like people cut your break on prices. People give you free train tickets. But being able to curry that ability and skill with like strangers to just chit chat. You're not looking for anything in response. You're learning the skill set, and maybe they don't know that, but you're not actually asking them for anything.
Right. Just talking to strangers is actually exercising the muscles of networking.
Yeah. Right. It's the best coming out of your shell like that.
Okay. So that's one thing, right? So talking to strangers, but how do you then apply that going forward?
So the way I would say in terms of talking to strangers, if you're going to outreach to somebody, is that what you're talking about when you want to ping someone that you don't really know well?
Yes.
You have to have a little handle for yourself, a way for they can carry you. So you have to be able to present to them, this is what I am. When you reach out to someone, we used to call it the elevator pitch, right? Dan, we teach sales training classes on this. You got to be able to say, this is what I am. This is the kind of thing I do. Before you make an ask, they need to know who they're dealing with. So how would you advise they do that? What's the whole concept of how do you to summarize yourself, if you will?
I think the best way to have an elevator pitch is to not pigeonhole yourself, is to be as general as possible as you feel out your audience, right? So the person that you're networking with, let me say, tell me a little bit about you. And having an elevator pitch of 20, 30 seconds with very little detail, but really helping them understand where you want to go. And so I think the easy crutch is for people to talk about where they came from, but where you came from may not be where you want to go. And so if you just formulate an elevator pitch of where you want to go, that will help that person think of you later.
So I don't think I ever told you this. When I was in one department at the firm we worked at together, I wanted to get to the bigger department where you worked. It was like the big place to be. And the guy who's responsible for making that decision, I was trying to get on the trading desk.
Yeah, that's right.
I timed this thing on purpose. He literally got in the elevator and I got in the elevator with him going down to get lunch. And we were on the 29th floor, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's right.
In that time frame, I had hit him with, this is what I'm doing right now. I know I'd love to get over to that area, and here's how I can help. My point is, you have to memorize an elevator pitch. People think an elevator pitch means a pithy little quick thing you say when this is a piece of content that you have to write out on an index card and remember it and then deliver it. It's a performance.
So should they like practice it in front of a mirror? Like what do you think?
100%. So I always like to say, write down like the three things. So this is, who I am, as you say, where you come from, what your skills are, what you want to do. Something in that you want it to be in three parts. 1, 2, 3. People think in terms of threes. The human can process that. Beyond 3, it starts to become a list and they can't follow it all. So when you say very quickly, hey, my name is Marc Angelos, I run a content marketing firm. I'm looking to learn more about the recruitment space, Dan, which I know you're in. I'd love to be able to add a recruitment division to what I'm doing here in content. Something like that. And I'm making that up on the spot, but at the very least, the recipient, you in this case, if you don't know me, would be like, okay, he's not some total wackadoo. I know why he's calling me or reaching out to me. I see how he fits in my world.
Right. So, okay, now that you've created this kind of like elevator pitch, right? And what's the most important thing after that? Is it the interaction right then or the follow-up?
No.
Like
follow-up, right? You're trying to build a relationship. So if I elevator pitch you and then ask you for an investment into my firm, you're going to be like, no, thanks, I'm good.
Yeah.
But if I elevator pitch you and then follow up with you in a day or two and say, hey, man, something came to my mind I thought might be of assistance to you. Still no ask. I know you're moving into this area with your recruitment firm. Have you thought about like accounting is what you do and crypto accounting is a new thing now. And I don't know if you do that or not, but in the content world, I'm doing work there and I know that it's a big growing space. So that's where if you provide some value in the follow-up, now the guard is down. They're open to helping you.
This is the give, then give some more, and never count points. Right? Back to Harvey McKay. So
it's true though, because these principles don't change. Right? The principles of sales and relationship building have been in time immemorial. It just happens to be his digital front end on it now, which throws people. They think that like you and I both know how to sell. Now we know how to use content for that, but it's the same principles. You're just doing a different medium.
And hopefully in person.
Right. That's definitely going to come back. In an AI world, you're in the recruitment space. I wouldn't hire someone unless I could meet them. Now with AI,
you have to meet them. You have to meet them. You have to see you have to see them in person if possible, right? And
right.
It's you want to know if you like the cut of their jib, right?
Cut of the jib. You confront digitally in any manner you need to, right? You can be whatever you need to be to get hired,
right?
But that's not going to work long term.
And there's the AI profile photos. There's AI avatars, right? All of that stuff. But if you really want to have somebody that you're going to do business with closely, or you're going to hire them, or you're going to go work for somebody, right? I mean, the authenticity has to be there.
Right. So I would say try to put together an elevator pitch. Try to come up with ways you can possibly help these people, and specifically follow up with them after you've outreached to them and say, something that might be of service to you. Because what you're doing is you're not trying to pressure them. In their own mind, they have to decide can I help this person? Do I want to help this person? That's the inner conversation you're trying to pick at with them.
So we are not necessarily going against AI, but as far as networking is concerned, really it's all about being.
Dude, I'm super pro AI. I think AI has its place, but it's not going to replace networking.
Yeah.
It's going to enhance it. If anything, like if I want to network more, especially if I'm only dealing with chatbots. If I talk to Dano's firm, and let's just say I'm doing a bunch of business, with FastBook, and all I ever do is deal with your chatbot, I damn well want to go out to dinner with you or drinks and find out who's behind this firm. So, and that's the case in any regard. If you want to get hired somewhere else, they want to know who you are. So the more you can do live interactions, which means like a phone call, it might be, direct messaging, instant messaging type stuff. But the more you can engage with them and help them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I totally agree with all that. I mean, that's that's how business is going to be done, I think, going forward in many respects, and especially building those relationships over time. It's the exact opposite of being transactional, right? And the exact opposite of counting points. I've met people where, and you know them too, right? That where we talk about the benefits of networking and networking person and not expecting anything in return. And what do they say? They say, well, how do I know I'm spending my time wisely? And the answer is you don't.
You don't. That's such a tough answer to give these people because they don't want to hear that.
Right. Because if I'm going to give my time to do networking, I expect something back.
I think I told you this. I taught a sales course once, and I was explaining the value of networking. The course was not on networking; it was selling. And I was like, if you network with people, it's easier to sell. Why do I network? I'm like, what do you mean? The question, one younger student was like, why do I want to waste my time doing that? I just want to sell. And I was like, this is a real question, because that's people deal with people. But the mentality was, I don't want to waste my time because I really don't need anything other than for you to buy from me. And that gets back to the mentality, the intent. People can smell that on you.
Now, was that person younger?
Yes.
Right. So they grew up in an Amazon world, right?
Yes.
They grew up in a world of online shopping. And so it's not surprising.
I don't want to poop on that generation, but there is a mentality around like, well, I should be able to automate everything. And some things, people are a prickly thing.
Right. And that's, that's empathy right there, right? That's emotional intelligence, and really being able to not just have, an idea of what they might be going through, but actually looking at it from their perspective. So that's
so this is a growing problem in an AI world. Dano, we've talked about this as potential topics for this program. Was like soft skills are a growing gulf of people that don't know how to handle other people.
Yeah, that's it's a skill that I think that everyone can continue to develop, and if you're not really used to it, then you really should develop it. So,
was it Maya Angelou? People will never remember what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
That's right. That's 100%.
My dad used to say he could tell you that he's the type of guy that could tell you how to go to hell in a manner that you would thank him for the directions. Like how you tell it is more important than what you say. And that's like a key lesson right there.
Yeah, that's so great. All right, well, we're coming up on our time. Mark, always great to connect with you.
Pleasure's mine.
Especially, with our new show here. Thank you to the audience for joining us. This has been Everything to Gain, Season 1, Episode 1. I am Dano Yu on social. If you want to follow me, please do. And that is that guy over there.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We hope you got something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And stay tuned for our next episode.
Peace.